All right, welcome back. And lest you all think that I'm a one dimensional man, tonight instead of drinking coffee, I'm drinking a lovely peach tea. So, never let it be said that I lack variety. All right, so we've covered the creation of the world in ancient Greek myth. We've covered sort of a primer of the basics of the world of Greek myth. Now, today we're going to focus on two of the Olympians in particular, sort of the power couple of Mount Olympus. We're going to focus on Zeus and Hera. And they are the king and queen of the Greek gods. They are the king and queen of Mount Olympus. Zeus, his symbols are the lightning bolt, the weapon that was forged for him by the Cyclopes. He wears a breastplate called the Aegis, which protects him from harm. And one of his other symbols is the eagle, because Zeus is the lord of all of the overworld, and the eagle is the most powerful bird in the sky. And that's Zeus. Hera has a few different symbols. Whereas Zeus is the god of kings and judges, she's the goddess of queens and wives and childbirth. And they are married, but not very happily. In the first place, Hera did not even want to marry Zeus. Zeus realized that as a king he needed a queen, and he realized one of the best choices he had for queen was Hera. She was wise, she was beautiful, she was powerful. She was his sister, but that's a separate Greek mythology thing. And so he asked her to marry him. And of course she said no, which threw Zeus for a loop. He's like, what do you mean no? It's like, no, I'm not going to marry you. It's like, but you will be queen. You'll be queen of everything. And no, I'm good. Thank you. It's like, no, you don't understand. I'm your king, and I'm proposing to you. You will be my queen. And she said, no, actually, I won't. And so Zeus cajoled her. Nothing. He begged her. Nothing. He commanded her. Less than nothing. No matter what he did, she just said no, 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 no. And Zeus was not hearing no. And Hera finally got so irritated that she retired to her rooms in the palace just to get away from Zeus. And he continued his shenanigans outside her door, begging and pleading and commanding and demanding, and she just did her best to ignore him. And she'd been in her room for days when a horrible thunderstorm moved in over Mount Olympus. Like the sky just went utterly dark. Howling wind, pounding rain, lightning just striking through the air, thunder rolling. And as Hera's laying there on her couch, just trying to relax and enjoying the fact that Zeus had stopped shouting at her door, she heard the most pitiful little noise at the window of her room. And she looked over, and there was a poor little cuckoo, this poor bird, just like smashed and trashed and thrashed by the wind, just helpless on her windowsill, limping with his feathers all ruffled and bent and just bedraggled and not able to fly anymore. And Hera went over to this poor little bird, and she picked up the bird, and she smoothed its feathers, and she wrapped it up in the cloth of her own robes, and she dried it and kept it warm and said, oh, you poor, sweet, sweet little thing. I will take care of you. I will be with you. I will protect you. I will be with you always. I swear it. I swear it upon the river Styx. And that's the moment that the cuckoo turned back into Zeus in her arms and said, why, thank you, Hera. I accept your proposal, and now we are wed. And Hera was stuck. Because it's not just that she had promised to take care of this bird, which was Zeus, she had promised upon the river Styx. And any promise sworn upon the name of the river Styx was sacred, inviolate, could not be broken by the gods. And so now she was stuck with the husband that she had never wanted, which was more than a little frustrating for her, but she'd make the best of it. She was a loyal wife. She was a good queen. She gave him good counsel. And he was a horrible, horrible husband. Worst husband ever. And that's saying a lot because there's some pretty stiff competition in Greek mythology for worst husband ever. But have you ever had that present that you wanted, that gift you wanted, and you begged your parents for it, and you begged and you begged and you begged for Christmas, and you begged for your birthday, and you begged for your brother's birthday, and you just kept on begging and begging and begging until finally you got this thing that you just had to have. And then once you have it, you have this moment of joy and happiness. Yes, I have this thing I want. And then you find out you don't really want it. That's what happened with Zeus. He worked so hard to get Hera to agree to be his wife and then finally tricked her into being his wife. He worked so hard at it. But then once he had her, he realized didn't really want her. Wasn't happy with her as a wife. She was always like paying attention to him and wanting to know where he was going and who he was spending his time with, and that really wasn't any of her business, especially since he's spending a lot of time with a lot of girls that weren't his wife. And so it was just a problem. And so Zeus and Hera just fought nonstop. I mean, they just rocked the walls of Mount Olympus with how much fighting they did. Drove everybody crazy, them included. And so Zeus spent a lot of time down on Earth to have, quality time away from his wife and with other people. And so Hera spent a lot of her time looking for her husband. And one day she was wandering the halls of Mount Olympus looking for her husband. And she was asking around, and nope, nobody had seen him. At least nobody was going to admit to have seen him. And she knew he wasn't anywhere down on the earth. I'm sorry, he wasn't anywhere on Mount Olympus. He must be down on the earth. And she looked out the window, and she looked down on to the earth, and she couldn't see him anywhere. Meanwhile, Zeus definitely was down on earth, and he had definitely met a girl, a young woman named Io. And Zeus and Io were getting to know each other in the field, hanging around together, and just, having some quality time together. And Zeus had put on his thinking cap this morning, and he decided, I don't want Hera breaking up my good time and interrupting me. And so he had summoned a cloud over his head in the sky above to hide him and Io as they were, talking and getting to know each other. And Hera looks down, and sure enough, she can't see Zeus, but she does see in this one field, out of a whole clear blue sky, exactly one thundercloud shading this field. And Hera is not stupid, and she's like, gee, I wonder where my husband is, and I wonder what he's doing. So she headed down to Earth. And she was ready to bust up Zeus's party and, ruin his good time. And she was on her way to do it, and something slowed her down. And that's a story for another time. But something slowed her down, and Zeus heard her coming. And he did what he had to do. And I don't know if you've ever been caught and you're in trouble and you panic. So you do the first thing you can think of. And it just so happens that that first thing you think of is really kind of stupid. Well, Zeus panicked. It's like wife, girl, wife, girl, wife, girl. Got to do something, cow. And he turned Io into a cow. I don't know why he chose a cow. I don't know why he didn't make her invisible. I don't know why he didn't make her into a bird and let her fly away. But cow. Cow is what he went with. And his wife shows up. There's Zeus standing in the field with a cow. It's like, hello, husband. It's like, wife, hello, How are you? Isn't this a lovely day? What are you doing, Zeus? I'm just enjoying the earth and exploring and just standing here with this cow. So you're just hanging out with a cow? Yes. Just a cow, just an ordinary cow, hanging out with a cow. And it's just a cow. It's like, yeah, what else would it be? Of course it's a cow. Couldn't possibly be anything else. And Hera looked at her husband. She looked at the cow. Said, that's a lovely cow. Like, yes, it is it's quite a cute cow, isn't it? But just a cow. You're right. In fact, it's so cute, I want it. Excuse me? I, your wife, your queen, I want the cow. What do you mean you want the cow? I just want the cow. It's cute. I want it. Give it to me as a gift. Unless there's a reason you can't give me this cow as a gift. And Zeus, like, no reason I can't give you this cow. It's a perfectly ordinary cow. So here, my wife, I present you this cow as a gift from me, your loving and faithful husband. So Zeus ends up giving the girl in the shape of a cow to his wife. And Hera smiles, and she uses her belt to fashion a lead for the cow, and she walks it away. And Zeus just stands in the field wondering what had just happened and what he was going to do to fix it. And he followed Hera at a distance, and he realized where she was taking the cow. She's taking the cow to her garden. He's like, no problem. I'll wait until she leaves the garden. I'll go in. I'll untie the cow from whatever tree she ties it to, sneak the cow out, turn it back into the girl, and then Io will go back home, and I'll go back to the palace, and nobody will know anything. And so he walks up to the gate of Hera's garden, and he's about to take a step through, and he immediately takes 2 steps right back out. Because Hera had set a guard over the cow. She had set her favorite servant, Argus, who happened to be a giant, as guard over Io. But it wasn't that Argus was a giant that bothered Zeus. Now, he wasn't afraid of any giant. He'd fought enough of those in his life. What worried him was he needed to be able to sneak past the giant. And Argus was very, very difficult to sneak past. And that's because Argus, the giant, had over 100 eyes covering his body. All over his body. I don't like to think too much about the details of that, but suffice it to say, dude covered in eyes. He could see in every direction. Up, down, left, right, back, forth, coming, going. Whatever direction it was, Argus had it covered. And in fact, not only did he have all those eyes, he never let more than half of his eyes sleep at any one time. So, no matter what time of day, you weren't sneaking up on Argus without him catching you. And he was Hera's favorite servant. And so Zeus walked away. But he was kind of feeling a little bit guilty about this poor girl being stuck in the shape of a cow in this garden, guarded by a giant, because, well, maybe he kind of felt like it was his fault a little bit. So, Zeus went to who he went to when he needed someone sneaky and clever to solve one of his problems. He went to his son, Hermes. And I'm going to take a moment to point out that Hermes is Zeus's son, not Hera's son. Zeus had lots of children. Only a couple of them were with Hera, which goes back to the whole horrible husband thing. But Zeus went to the god Hermes, god of messengers, travelers, tricksters, and thieves. And he said to his son, I have a little problem. I need you to sneak a cow out of Hera's garden without her realizing I've done it. Hermes said, no problem, father. I will get that cow out of the garden for you. So Argus is guarding the cow. And by the way, this picture of Argus here is taken from Ingrid and Edgar Perrin Dolaire's Greek Myths book, which was the book that my mother used to introduce me to Greek mythology, by the way. And I like the picture. It makes me happy. So here you go. It also happens to be one of the only non-creepy pictures I could find of Argus on all of the internet. But back to the garden and back to the story. So, Hermes heads to the garden. And Zeus is watching from a distance. He's waiting. Is Hermes going to turn invisible? Is he going to turn into a rabbit and sneak in? Turn into a mouse, snake? What? How is he going to sneak into the garden and get this done? And Zeus's jaw just about hits the ground when he sees Hermes walk right through the front gate of the garden. It's like, this is supposed to be a sneaking mission, my son. But he just has to sit there with his jaw held tight because he can't mess with Hermes' plan. But Hermes walks right up to Argus and says, Argus, hey, how are you doing? And Argus, who knows darn well who Hermes is, it's like, fine. What do you want? Oh, nothing. Just decided to take a walk, enjoy this garden. It's a lovely garden, isn't it? Yes. What do you want? Who's saying I want anything? Just want to spend some quality time with you, Argus. Get to know you. You're one of Hera's favorites, you know. And so Hermes pulls up a stump, takes a seat. And he begins telling a story. And it's a story with no ending and no beginning. And I don't know if you've ever had a 3-year-old try to explain the plot line of their 2 favorite movies to you simultaneously. But that's basically what this was. It just went on and on and on, and it made less than no sense, and it was confusing, and it contradicted itself, and above all, it was just boring and hard to listen to. And Argus sat there. And he listened to Hermes, but he was watching, but he's getting more and more bored and more tired. And first a couple of his eyes closed, and that's not a problem because he had, 98 more. Then a couple more closed, and a couple more, and a couple more, and a couple more, until one by one, every single one of his eyes closed. And finally, the last eye closed, and Argus fell over dead. Hermes had literally bored the giant to death. And, hey, mission half accomplished. He goes to the tree, he unties the cow, and he starts leading the cow out of the garden, and that's when he hears his dad's wife, Hera, coming. And he says, nope, not a good place to be. And he shoos the cow out the gate. And he says, job done. I just had to get the cow out. Bam, he dips, he's gone. He flies away as fast as he can. And Hera shows up in the garden. At first she sees the cow is gone. Then she sees her favorite servant dead on the ground. And she flies into a rage because she doesn't know the details, but she knows darn well what happened and who's responsible for it at the base. And then she sees the cow trotting off down the trail, and in anger she summons up a gadfly and sends it after the cow. And it stings that poor little cow over and over and over and over. And that cow runs from the gadfly and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. And that cow runs all the way from Greece, up and out of Greece, around, down, and eventually gets to Egypt, of all places, where She finally manages to resume her human form and is worshipped locally as a god. So, happy ending for her, except for the whole, racing across a couple continents while being stung by a fly and being stuck in cow form for a few years. But meanwhile, back in the garden, Hera is heartbroken over the loss of her favorite servant Argus, and she's bound and determined that he will never be forgotten. And so she looks, and she sees her favorite animal, the peacock, strolling around her garden. And so what she does is she goes to Argus, and she plucks his eyes from his body and places them in the tail of the peacock. So that every time the peacock fans its tail and spreads it wide, all of Argus's eyes look outwards, seeing still from the tail of that peacock. And Zeus basically gets away with it. She knows, he knows she knows, she knows he knows she knows, but nothing changes. And it goes on and on and on. She's unhappy, he's unhappy, and they're stuck together for eternity because he tricked her into making a promise saying they would be together for eternity. And there ends that happy tale. And some other time I'll tell you the story of Echo, who is the nymph who is the reason why Hera didn't get to see Zeus in time and catch him in the act with Io. But next time, I think I will focus on Hades, king of the underworld, and Demeter, goddess of the harvest, and the lovely shenanigans they get up to. But until then, have a good night.